Bruce Bowen averaged 6.1 points a game. 6.1. And the Spurs still retired his jersey.
What a great honor it is for any player to be honored by their team and have their uniform retired. Well, Bruce Bowen is now among that special group here at the AT&T Center as part of the San Antonio Spurs.
That's such a wild basketball sentence that it almost sounds fake the first time you hear it. This is a franchise with David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, George Gervin, Kawhi Leonard, a whole museum of stars. And one of the numbers hanging in the rafters belongs to a guy who barely ever touched double digits. That alone tells you the box score was missing the point. Bowen won 3 titles in San Antonio.
A 3-time NBA champion with the San Antonio Spurs. His name is Bruce Bowen.
Made 8 straight all-defensive teams from 2001 to 2008 and turned himself into the kind of defender opposing stars definitely hated seeing. And when I say stars, I mean stars.
Bruce Bowen was 1,000% right.
This is the guy teams threw at Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, Steve Nash, Steve Francis, basically whoever was lighting people up that week. He didn't score enough to headline highlight shows. He did not move merchandise the way scorers do. He just kept showing up, sliding into the hardest assignment, making life miserable, hitting the occasional corner 3, and helping a dynasty breathe a little easier. That is why this story works so well. Bruce Bowen is one of the cleanest examples of impact destroying the stat sheet. Quick pause for those who are not subscribers. Subscribe if you like basketball stories where the numbers lie to your face. The beginning of Bruce Bowen's story is rougher than a lot of fans realize. ESPN wrote in 2018 that Bowen grew up around serious instability.
Well, for me, it was more about trust issues with my personal family.
He said his father took the pocket money he earned selling newspapers and used it to buy alcohol. He also said his mother once sold the family television to feed her crack cocaine habit. He moved between homes, spent time with friends and relatives, and did not have the kind of secure, polished childhood story people like to attach to future champions. He had talent, though he also had chaos around it. That tends to harden people fast. He went to Edison High in Fresno, the Cal State Fullerton, where he averaged 16.3 points as a senior and made first team All Big West. So yes, the weird thing here is that Bowen could actually score. He was not born as some mythological one-skill role player who existed only to bother superstars. In college, he looked like a normal good player trying to make the league the normal way. The normal way just didn't work. He went undrafted in 1993. No team picked him. End of story. At least for a lot of guys. Bowen had to go find basketball somewhere else. He started in France with Le Havre, then Évreux, and played in Besançon too. He even won LNB Pro B scoring titles in 1994 and in 1995. That part matters because it completely changes the image people have of him. Before Bruce Bowen became Bruce Bowen, he was overseas trying to survive as more of a scorer. He was not yet the Spurs specialist waiting in the corner for a pass. He was a guy bouncing around, trying to prove he belonged in pro basketball at all. The NBA part of the journey was messy too. He had stints with the Heat, Celtics, and 76ers. Nothing about those early years screamed future jersey retirement. He was a fringe guy, a bounce-around guy, the sort of player people forget in 5 minutes, unless he somehow turns himself into something more useful than expected. That reinvention started in Miami, and Pat Riley had a lot to do with it. Bowen has said his starting career began there, where defense actually had value every night. Slam put it well years later. In Miami, the path opened because of his defense. That identity ended up saving his career. That is really the hinge of the whole story. Bowen figured out that he was not going to stick in the NBA as a guy demanding touches. He was not Isaiah Ryer. He was not going to walk into the league and get fed 20 shots. He had to become the thing contenders always need and stars rarely want to deal with. So he leaned all the way in. Defense, effort, discipline, study, footwork, pain tolerance, annoyance. He turned himself into a specialist before 3-and-D became a phase people threw around 10 times a night on broadcasts. He was one of the templates for it. When people talk about later role players like Danny Green, the lane Bowen helped cut is right there. Then, San Antonio happened. The Spurs signed him in 2001, and from there, the whole thing clicked. He became a starter, a defensive wrecking ball on the perimeter, and a central role player on title teams in 2003, 2005, and 2007. Official Spurs material on his jersey retirement said he appeared in 122 playoff games for them and shot 43.8% from three in the postseason. That number matters because this is where the second half of the job came in. Bowen didn't need plays run for him, though you still had to guard him. Leave him alone in the corner and he would hurt you. Close out too hard and now you're playing 4-on-3 behind the action. That skill set sounds ordinary now because half the league is trying to manufacture it. Back then, it was gold. And the defense was real, not reputation fluff. 5 all-defensive first teams, 3 all-defensive second teams, 8 straight years on one of those teams. He finished second in Defensive Player of the Year, voting more than once, which is kind of hilarious when you remember he never averaged double figures in any season. The league kept telling you the same thing over and over. This guy changes games. He makes stars uncomfortable. He survives on the court because his value keeps punching above his scoring average. There's another funny stat that tells you everything about him. Bruce Bowen once had a season where he shot 44% from three and 40% from the free throw line. That is not a typo. 44 from deep, 40 from the line. It makes zero sense unless you know exactly what kind of player he is. He almost lived in the corners. He took the shot he practiced.
Bowen in the corner. Bowen wants the three. And got it when he needed it.
He did the narrow job extremely well. He was weirdly modern and weirdly old school at the same time. The Iron Man part of the story is easy to miss, though it matters too. Bowen played 500 consecutive games as a Spur from 2002 to 2008. Sports Illustrated labeled him the Iron Man of the NBA in 2007, and even Hall of Fame-type local profiles still mention that streak because it fits the image perfectly. He was not glamorous. He was available. Coaches trust that. Teammates trust that. Dynasties need that. When you are the guy defending Kobe on Tuesday and LeBron on Friday, your team likes knowing you will actually be there. Now, this is where the story gets messy, because you cannot talk about Bruce Bowen honestly without talking about the controversy. A lot of stars thought he crossed the line. Vince Carter and Steve Francis accused him of stepping into their landing space on jump shots. Ray Allen got kicked in the back during a 2006 game, and Bowen was fine. In the 2007 playoffs, Steve Nash took a knee to the groin in that ugly Spurs-Suns series, and Bowen's reputation as a dirty player reached full boil. Even people who respected him defensively would still say, yeah, great defender, though he absolutely walked on the edge. That's part of his legacy, whether Spurs fans like it or not. And honestly, that tension is part of why the story keeps people watching. Because Bruce Bowen was never the clean, easy role player fairy tale. He was useful, successful, relentless, and for a lot of opponents, deeply infuriating. Some saw him as a professional winner who did the nasty job stars avoided. Others saw him as a defender who cheated the line enough times that the line stopped meaning much. That debate has followed him into retirement for a reason. The guy could ruin your night and then finish with 7 points, 3 rebounds, and no apology. Still, here's the part I keep coming back to. The Spurs don't retire numbers lightly, and Bowen became the first Spur to have his number retired without ever averaging double figures in a season. Think about how much trust, winning, and defensive terror you have to build to pull that off in this organization. You cannot fake that with vibes. You cannot get there on narrative alone. You get there because Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and the whole machine knew exactly what Bruce Bowen was doing for them every night, even when the stat sheet looked like somebody forgot to fill it out. That is why the title of this whole story basically writes itself. He silenced Kobe, LeBron, and Wade while averaging 6 points a game. That sounds ridiculous. It also happens to be a pretty fair summary of what his career became. a 3-time champion, and 8-time All-Defensive selection, a prototype for the modern 3-and-D wing, a player who nearly ended up invisible after going undrafted, drifting through France and minor leagues, then turned that career into one of the clearest proofs that impact and scoring are not the same thing. And if you want the cleanest possible final line on Bruce Bowen, here it is. The box score said 6.1 points. The rafters said something else. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and check out our last video on Zion, where the numbers looked loud, but the real story was everything happening underneath them.